Hello again everybody, and welcome back to those frequent flyers on the channel. Those of you who are new to the British Avgeek YouTube channel, very warm welcome. Please do click on the subscribe button down below and join us as a frequent flyer. If you enjoyed today's video, then do click the like button too, and be sure to check out all of the tutorials on our playlists, including the mini-series on how to get started on VATSIM. So this is continuing the arrivals into Ajaccio little mini-series, and we've already looked at one of the circle to land arrivals. We're now looking at the arrival Par Le Col, which, if you like, is the shortcut arrival into 20 using RNAV. And we're arriving, currently set up at least, on a Lonsu 2 November arrival via Kilo Juliet 601 for the RNAV runway 20, and that gives us that Par Le Col procedure that we're going to be flying. Make sure as you get close that you have all of your arrival data in, and your MDA 637 for this procedure. And for the RNAV page, we can input a few little bits to help us as well. But let's have a quick look at the charts. So we're looking at Navigraph today. If you were going to arrive via Varec, as an example, or Rubus, Varec, for example, you want the Varec 1 Romeo into Kilo Juliet 601. Similarly, if you were using Rubus, you'd probably want Kilo Juliet 600 for the initial approach fix, and that will bring you in nicely, probably via Lasfa. But make sure you use the plan mode on the nav display to make sure everything ties up nicely with the arrival procedure for you. So let's look at the arrival procedure then. Daytime only, as you can see, and the weather has to suit. We're coming in via Kilo Juliet 601 at the top of the map. Maximum altitude of 6,000, but really we're going to be targeting almost 3,000 because that's where we need to be at for IKJ 20. We want to tune into the ILS frequency of 110.3, so we can track our mileage to the ILS, and that's kind of it. Bear in mind all of the missed approach data as well, of course, and there's our minimums down the bottom there, 637 feet for the MDA. Runway visual range 2,800 metres, and at IKJ 20, that initial finals, that's where we need to have visual of the Pappies, although likely we might struggle in the sim, depends on everybody's scenery. Same as the circle to land, we want to make sure that at the lake we want to be lining up with the runway at 1,000 feet. We can start a descent down to 3,000. We're still having to use vertical speed mode in Microsoft Flight Simulator's Airbus A320. And for the RNAV, remember we don't use LS mode, but we would use the approach button. Local QNH at the moment 1024, and we're on live weather as well. We can go ahead and set up for the arrival procedure as well, so we can click low auto brake, arm the speed brake, all the ground spoilers. And of course at this point we would have already been cleared by ATC for the RNAV runway 20. For missed approach, we've got to climb pretty much straight ahead, maximum 160 knots initially, then up to Horro, H-O-R-R-O, climbing to 3,000, max speed of 220 knots, and then we join the hold. Or fly as directed. Things are going to happen quite quickly for us when we get a bit closer as well. So after Kilo Juliet 601, we then reach IKJ 20. We want to fly a heading of 098 degrees, as we could see on the charts, and we're looking at the terrain here. We can see that there's a peak there of 1,883 feet as we make our way over. And if we look down here at FKJ 20, which is that point there, we go over that high terrain, we have to be at 3,000 foot, that's mandatory. And then we have a 3.60 degree glide path angle all the way down to the runway. 160 knot max. So we fly to KJ 602 and then we're turning right to line up over the lake, which is pretty much where the star is there, and straight in. You can see if we were approaching via KJ 600, we would be initially flying 070 degrees to IKJ 20, and then we would be heading in and flying the same sort of procedure. So over the terrain into this sort of dip in the valley, and then turning for the lake in to runway 20. You can see, looking at the flight plan that we've got input here in the MCDU, that actually the sim's got it pretty nicely made. So Kilo Juliet 601, and then we have to be IKJ 20 at 3,000, that's correct. FKJ 20, KJ 602, and that's our as we're sort of rolling through that turn. And then runway 20. So it all looks pretty good for the nav data in the sim. It matches Navigraph very nicely. Of course, if you're using different charts, they might look slightly different, but in principle the information on the charts should all be the same. And again, for this sort of approach, Track FPA will come in really handy for us for this procedure. Especially when it comes to manually flying. So, here we go. This is the start of the Par Le Col RNAV for runway 20. Par Le Col is it's translated to by the collar, but apparently quite difficult. We've got everything set up. We've also gone ahead and put the NDB frequency in 365 RB, which is on the airport itself. And remember, we've also got the AC localizer 110.3 input as well, don't forget. And our approach page is already complete with that MDF 637. So, preparation, we've got auto brake low, speed brakes armed, we've got approach phase active, all lights as required, crew, and that's cabin secure. KKE01 is just coming up, and we know from there we want to fly heading of 138 degrees to IKJ 20, which is input in nicely there thanks to the nav data. So we can pretty much leave this on managed mode most of the way. IKJ 20 turning left again, inland, over the terrain. FKJ 20 being pretty much next to the peak of that land as we fly over. Have to be at 3,000. And then making our way in on a 3.6 degree glide slope down to the runway. Remember, we're looking for the lake again as we did for the circle to land procedure, and we want to be at 1,000 foot for that lake. So we're flying in basically through this little dip of terrain here, and Ajaccio is just the other side of this peak where the cursor is. So it'll all happen quite quickly, and as before, speed is key, so that's going to help us control the aircraft as best as possible. Missed approach, it's a climb to 3,000, max 220 knots, then hold at Horo. We could probably go ahead and put Track FPA on. Remember, flight director comes off with Track FPA. go flaps 1. The next phase will happen real quick, so we want to be in a good position, because IKJ 20 is actually our short finals. We would have been cleared to land, I'd imagine, round about now. Flaps 2. Remember, we've got that high terrain as well. From this point here in 5 miles, we can actually start a descent in, because FKJ 20 was mandatory 3,000 foot, don't forget, from the charts. There's the ocean. Ajaccio is the other side of this peak here, the airport, and we can just see the lake actually in the distance. So don't forget, once we get to this point, we should be looking for the Pappies. So the RNAV will take us down into this valley, left turn in a second. Flaps 3. Going to go ahead and get ready for the final approach via AKG 20 with that descent that we want. We can, of course, select in degrees 3.6, which is going to help us quite considerably. So when it comes to it, we can arm that and actually arm the flight path angle there. Let's arm the final approach nav for the RNAV, and now we can go gear down. Configuration early always helps. Full flaps. Go ahead and put 3.6 in. Flight path angle. And we can see the bird there, positioned straight away for a 3.6 degree glide slope. So now we're looking to be at the lake, which is there, at 1,000 foot, and we can see the runway. So everything, all the conditions are suitable for today, and we are visual with the airport already. So the other side of this here, little bump, and in a second we should start to see the Pappies. Monitoring everything as we go, of course. Ground speed of about 120 knots, so we're looking for about 765 foot per minute. Fat fingers. We've got about 800. So we'll just monitor it. We will be taking over and flying manually very soon. There's the Pappies and the approach lights. Pappies are just where the cursor is there, showing 4 white, interestingly. But we haven't yet started the base turn. There's the lake. So we probably want to increase our rate of descent ever so slightly.
1,000.
Let's just take over. We'll fly it in, shall we? The autopilot does tend to come in a bit sharp on the turns sometimes. We want to turn over the lake. About 1,000 foot when we're over the lake, and we know we're pretty much good there. And we want to then make sure we've got our missed approach altitude set. 3.7 degree glide slope, glide path angle rather, and we've got 2 red 2 white on the Pappies there. Looking at the runway in the corner as we fly over the lake. If you're enjoying the video, do click like and make sure you subscribe as well to the channel. And here we go. Could have gone a bit sharper with the turn there.
100 above.
And we're approaching minimums.
500.
We could have left it on automated for now, up to this point, if we wanted to.
500.
Got a slight crosswind, only about 4 knots though.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
And down. Decel. We could probably lose the reverse thrust again because we know we have to taxi all the way down to the end of the runway, so we'll take over manual braking and we'll let it roll at 60 knots for the time being. And there was our Par Le Col arrival into Ajaccio. If you give it a go, let me know how you get on in the comments. If you're trying via a different star, for example, then I'm interested to know how that goes for you. And we'll follow the yellow line off the runway. Bring those flaps back to 0, and of course lights as required. And there we go, folks. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful and enjoyable. Be sure to check out all of my other tutorials, of course, and I'll see you for a live stream at some point in the very near future. Thanks for watching.